Hello everyone, so in this video let us talk about one more easy level problem from LEETCODE. The problem name is classes more than 5 students. So as you can see, you are given a table called courses. That table has two columns, student, which is a varchar, and a classes, which is also varchar. Now the overall problem here is that you are given a table and that table has students and the classes they are enrolled to. Okay, so every student is enrolled to some class, so that is given to you. Pretty much simple. Now you are have to find out that you have to find out all the classes where there are at least 5 students enrolled. So let's say you are given some table that, as you can see, that student A is enrolled to math class, B is enrolled to English class, C is enrolled to math class, D is enrolled to biology class, and so on. So these are different students, and everyone is enrolled to a certain class. Now I have to find out, as you can see, in math class there are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 students are there in the math class. So as you can see, you just have to find out all those classes in which at least 5 students are enrolled. Okay, that is the overall statement. So the very simple SQL query which you have to write down, you have to understand here new two keywords. We have to first start a standard SQL query with the first two lines, that what we have to select. We have to print out in this query. We have to find out all the classes. We have to find out all the classes name, as you can see here, all the classes name. So we have to first find out all the classes. So select all the classes from this table. From which table? Courses table. So that is the first thing that you have to always do. Like select which columns you have to print out, classes, and from which table? Courses table. Now you have to find out and do some, as you can see, some summation. You have to do some aggregation. Why? Because as you can see, there are different classes and different students. Okay, and you have to first find out a count of how many students are there in each class. Then only you have to first find out the count and then find out among all those count what all are the classes who has the count at least greater than equal to 5. So first you have to group. So whenever you want to first find out the count, you have to group all these students by which you have to group it by their class. Okay, so you have to first use a new keyword, that is group by. Uh, so you are saying that we have to first let all the classes from the courses table. Now you have to group all these values by which particular column. You have to group it by class. You have to group it by class. So that which means that you are now grouping internally. You can imagine that you are grouping all the math classes, you are grouping all the English classes. So it is just internally grouping all of them. Okay, if you want to go to definition, read it about all of that. I have taken some, you can say, reference from this W3 schools. So as you can see, group by is a statement which is used to group rows. So you want to group rows by which you have to group the rows by their classes, because we have to find out all those classes which have at least 5 students. So you have to club all of these rows into one row. You can just assume internally that you are clubbing all of those rows into one row depending upon a certain condition. You have to, the condition is that all the distant values in the classes table has to be taken as different rows. So as you can see, like this is used to summary rows. Okay, if you want to find out the summary, find out the number of customers for each country and so on. So it is used to club. Whenever you club, as you can see, group by statement is often used with aggregator functions. What are aggregator functions? Aggregator functions are when you want to aggregate functions, that you want to find out the count, you have to find out maximum, minimum, sum, average. Whenever you want to find out the sum of any rows, you want to find out the count of all the number of rows, find out the maximum among these rows, minimum, and all of that. So you have to aggregate, you have to first club them, and then only you can use these aggregator functions. So to use this aggregator function, you have to first club them, and the clubbing can be done by group by clause, this statement. So you are first using this group by to group all of these students by their classes. Now you have to find out all those classes, because now it is grouped. Now you have to find out among all these classes. So now you can assume that after this particular statement, the table is now internal. You can just imagine that it is modified with all these only rows. All the rows are there, which is now combined, and they're combined based upon the classes. So now the rows of this particular table is now combined and formed into different rows only with different classes. So all of these, like you can say, these math, like all of them is clubbed into a single row. So now you have only, like you can say, all the table is now modified into a new table internally. You can imagine that, in which all the rows have different unique classes. Okay, so let's say maths, okay, and then English, and then bio, and then computer, and so on. Okay, so now you have a new table inside. You can imagine that. Now whenever you have, and all these students are like clubbed here. Okay, so now all the students' values are clubbed here, and these are grouped by this thing. Now you have to find out that what all are the subjects or all the classes which has the count of the students greater than or equal to 5. So now all the students are here. So now you can use the count function. Okay, so you can use the count, as you can see, aggregator function, to aggregate and find out the count of all the students, because these are the students. So students who has a value greater than or equal to 5. Okay, that's the thing that you have to use here. But now, why don't we use where here? Because in previous videos, we have seen that we can use where to find out the condition, that what is a particular condition. But as you can see here, that we want to do Geeks for Geeks SQL, like you can see reference here, that where having clauses used. As you can see, having clauses was introduced in SQL to allow the filtering of queries based on aggregator functions. Whenever you use aggregator functions, like as you have told you, aggregator functions such as count, max, whenever you're using aggregator function, you have to use having. You cannot use, you can say where, because as you can see, we cannot use where, because where is used for filtering individual rows. Whenever you have individual rows, whenever you are use where. But as you can see, after this particular line, we have now converted into an aggregator rows. All these rows are aggregated. All these like students are aggregated into single rows. So now we have to use having, you can say, to like do the conditioning. So if we have single rows, if you have only these rows, then you can use where. But when you have aggregated rows, then you have to do filtering on it, because I'm doing filtering. Like we have to filter all those rows to a single classes. So whenever you are doing filtering on aggregated rows, then you have to use having. So having is used here, and then all those things. What is the condition now? That all those students who has a count, all those students which are in the aggregated rows, the count of them is greater than or equal to 5. Return all those things. So this is the condition. That is the used for clubbing. That is the actual table name, and that's the row that you have to, sorry, the column that you have to print. So that's the overall condition and the actual query. If it was simple, you will learn along as we do more practice. That's the overall problem statement and the you can say SQL query for this particular problem. If you still have any doubts, you can mention in the comment box for this particular video. I will see you in the next one. Take coding and bye.